Hi, welcome to Your Call. I'm Alan Noonan and I'm joined here by Stephen Cunningham and Chris Bennett. And you can join us at any stage tonight in the conversation by tweeting us and also messaging us on Facebook. Tonight we're talking about young people and politics, continuing on from our show last week where we were joined by Colm Hornibrook from Fianna Fáil, UCC's Fianna Fáil Society. And tonight, Stephen Cunningham is our guest, and he's from UCC's Sinn Féin Society. And so we'll be talking more about young people in politics. Feel free to join in the conversation. So, Stephen, what do you think of young people in politics today?
I think young people have a vital role in politics. Young people are the future of this country, politics in particular. I think that young people bring new ideas to the table, rehash old ideas, tell the current establishment what's wrong. As you've seen local media throughout the last few years, constantly young people are pushing current politicians to really have our voice heard.
From your own experience, do you think that there's enough young people who are involved in politics these days?
I don't. I think that young people need to step up to the mark. More people need to get involved and realise that if we want the country to be the way we want it, we have to get more involved and really go out and have our voice heard.
What do you think is the block? Sorry, what do you think is the block that is sort of preventing these people?
The block, I think people are a bit, people see, young people in particular see politics as just, they're old politicians, they're not going to do anything, they don't care about us. People are a bit disenfranchised with the whole thing. I think people, that's what we need to get involved for, is to change the current political system.
Do you think the people who are obviously currently in power, though, I suppose, as you say, the old politicians, do you think some of the bearing needs to lie on them to actually change themselves? Absolutely,
of course. The politicians need to, there's a lot of politicians, in particular the current government, who think, they're in it for themselves, they're in it for their own profit, and they really need to, think of the people. They're the people who elected them, and show young people a bit of leadership. Show them, that your voice can be heard, and that.
What would you say differentiates all politicians? Young people, for example, would generalise about politicians and say, all politicians are the same. What do you think kind of distinguishes your politicians from their politicians?
With the whole all politicians are the same, that doesn't apply to everyone. Like, our own party are setting the way forward for everyone, and especially the youth of this country. My party are standing up for families, for kids, for mothers, fathers, for everyone. And we don't put bankers first, we don't put the rich first. That's the most important thing about
I suppose the one quick question about that was, I suppose, to go back, you were talking about these politicians who've been in power for a long time, that they've got old, etc. Gerry Adams has been there for 30 odd years now, saying he's going to carry on for another 3. Do you think that sort of goes against what you were saying a little bit there?
Not quite. Gerry Adams has been a great leader of Sinn Féin. He and a lot of people in the party believe that he has a lot to contribute still.
So it's not time for him to sort of take a step back and have a role, not at the forefront?
Well, I'm confident in Gerry Adams as a leader of my party. I think that as long as he contributes well to our party, and I'm more than happy to have him running the party. You
don't think that maybe if he stepped aside and let a younger person take control of the party, that he might be sending a more welcoming message to young people, rather than kind of him being there, which ties him by his own past, which ties the party to an earlier period, rather than moving the whole party forward, saying, almost drawing a line in the sand, dare I say, from an earlier period?
Well, I think we've all moved on from the 70s and the 80s, and everyone's looking forward now. And I don't think necessarily that a younger politician will send out a new message. Eventually that may be the case, but...
Do you not think that, like, other people might say, well, they're Sinn Féin, they're still stuck with Gerry Adams, he was so prominent during that period, they haven't moved on. So do you see how that might be difficult maybe for people?
I don't think we're stuck with Gerry Adams. He's a fantastic politician. He really is the head figure of the party, of course, as president, and he sets a great example to all our politicians. And Gerry Adams himself has encouraged youth involvement in politics throughout his presidency of Sinn Féin. So I think that Gerry Adams being leader is not detrimental to youth involvement in the party.
I suppose maybe not being detrimental to youth involvement in the party, but do you think his sort of divisive nature is detrimental perhaps to people voting for the party itself?
that may be your own opinion. I don't think so. I think people are mature enough and to look at it and see, okay, we're in the here and now. We're not looking into the past or looking into the future. That's the most important thing, to have a bit of maturity to think that, okay, Gerry Adams, you know, like, I don't think his past is a huge problem. You know, he has done nothing illegal, and you know, people vote not for the past but for the future.
Dare I lead on to another sort of earlier question? We'll return back to the border poll issue later on, but about your own experiences, what kind of led you into joining Sinn Féin? What drew you to them as a party rather than any other party, for example? Do you have a family background, a tradition?
Not necessarily. There'll be a couple of individuals in my family that may be Sinn Féin supporters.
Sure.
But my own leading into Sinn Féin was a personal choice, really.
Sure.
I grew up with, you know, Republican politics. That's what really drew me to it. I was I'm a Republican. I'm proud of it. I always have been. But as I grew older and I got more politically aware, it was Sinn Féin's policies and, you know, standing up for the disadvantaged in society that really solidified my interest in Sinn Féin, and that's what led me in. I really got active within the party when I started in UCC.
Very good. How have you found your own experiences working within a political party? Were you working with them before you were in UCC?
No, I only started when I got to UCC, and that's the great thing about the party, and it's, you know, it's a great thing.
In terms of the UCC, I suppose, chapter, you know, what's the kind of presence like there? Has Sinn Féin got a good following, I suppose, compared to the other parties? We've had Labour and Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil on here. Yeah. You know, how does Sinn Féin compare to them, I suppose, in terms of its popularity?
Our popularity, it would resemble the overall popularity throughout the country. We are a relatively popular party within the college, and you know, you can see it, say, our societies day at the start of the year. You could see the number of people signing up because, you know, looking at all the other parties, and it does really kind of represent the overall, it's kind of a microcosm of the overall political system. You know, ourselves and Fine Gael will be getting the most sign-ups, Fianna Fáil, as they have been in the last year or so, kind of waning a bit in terms of support, and the same with Labour as well. As that's the results that we've been seeing in the polls. I don't think that student interest in politics is too far removed from the overall picture.
Do you know, with the sort of way you were talking about it being like that, I suppose young people should be responsible for getting involved in politics, but do you think that maybe the parties in UCC should outreach maybe to other students who wouldn't be as interested in politics? Have you tried doing some things like that? Oh,
well, or like, I can't speak for the other parties, of course.
Sure, but in Sinn Féin's experience,
ourselves, we do regular recruitment drives on campus. We're very heavily involved in the Cork Sinn Féin. You know, we're constantly we go out in the city and we campaign the city. We leaflet, we spread our message, and we really do get involved. We're not just an introspective party.
Fantastic.
No, I mean, I suppose what interests me, and I think you've sort of raised that point quite succinctly in terms of interesting yourself in Sinn Féin. I suppose I'd like to know, if you were going to go out on your recruitment drives and the like, what would be your message to people who you were trying to recruit into Sinn Féin as a party? What would be the one thing you would say, this is the real reason you should choose Sinn Féin?
Sinn Féin don't stand up for we're not about satisfying our own needs. We're about saying, okay, we're representing everyone. We're about standing up for the disadvantaged in society.
I suppose that's something like the property tax thing that Gerry Adams announced in terms of a plan to repeal it, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, and of course, a big thing we would push on from a student perspective is that Sinn Féin stands up for students. Sinn Féin support maintaining the grant, cutting college fees. I
suppose, would you argue though, I suppose these kind of policies, the repeal of the property tax, the backing of bringing back the grants, etc., those are sort of policies that it's quite easy to make when you're in opposition, you know, easy to promise the larger things, but when you actually get into a position of power, a position, let's say coalition down the line, for instance, would that be something that you would feel they would absolutely stick with, or is it something that, you know, draws people in?
Absolutely. Like, I think what you're kind of getting at is the kind of what a lot of the opposition say, that we're a populist party. We're not. If you look at the recent budget, Sinn Féin submitted a budget proposal that was fully costed by the government, by a series of parliamentary questions put forward. The only thing that they would not answer to a parliamentary question was about the wealth tax. Now we then would base our figures on figures from the central bank and the SRI, and it's fully costed. Labour and Fine Gael always say that.
Thanks, Steve. We have a tweet in there from Michelle Power, sorry, actually via Facebook. She commented that we can't have a former terrorist running the country. What do you think about that, Stephen? Coming from somebody.
Gerry Adams, she's referring to, is never a terrorist. Gerry Adams was never involved with the IRA.
It's a difficult thing to say, though. That I mean, I know, I appreciate where you're coming from. And I appreciate that Gerry Adams himself has come out and denied the accusations, I suppose, against himself repeatedly. But yet the sort of accusations, the insinuations, the sort of, you know, let's say not evidence you would put into a courtroom, but certainly sort of evidence in the background is still there. It's not gone away. You know, there are still people saying, I've seen things, I know things, you know, and yet he still maintains this silence.
Well, Gerry Adams has never been convicted of any involvement with the IRA. Gerry Adams was never a terrorist. I
suppose conviction, though, is one thing, you know, participation or whatever is something completely different.
Well, Gerry Adams has always adamantly denied the claims that he was involved with the IRA.
So, just taking a step back from even Gerry Adams, dare I say that this is almost a reflection on Irish society as a whole? You have people like Cardinal Brady who are stuck with investigating the case over child abuse, and for a cardinal to be involved in that, now this was earlier on in his career when he was a Monsignor, but still, once it came to light that he was involved in this, and now he had done nothing wrong except that he didn't report it to authorities, once there was that sort of element of suspicion after being drawn over him, why didn't he just walk away from his position? Why didn't he say, actually, you know what, I don't have to be a cardinal, I can serve the church in other ways, I'm a figurehead of the organisation, I'm going to step down. The way that people in Irish politics seem to cling to position seems to be so detrimental. Do you know what I mean? That it's a terrible reflection of...
Yeah, I mean, even if as we've said, even if proved wrong, even if absolutely not right, you know, in the minds of people, I suppose there's still the old idea of, you know, no smoke without fire.
Yeah, and could he not step down at this point because, you know, like you said, that all his accomplishments to this point, why not just walk away from the organisation and let somebody else take over?
Of course he could, but I think that the party internally has discussed this constantly. You know, we're not just brushing off the ideas. We've looked at it and we still think, and Gerry Adams is still confident and the party is still confident in his support. If the party ever turns around and think that Gerry Adams is not, you know, he's not the best man for the job, he'll step aside, I'm sure of it.
Does he think that he's indispensable?
Well, that's not for me to comment on, but I'm not in Gerry Adams' mind, but I can't really comment on that.
Okay.
I suppose an interesting thing we can raise up now is the border poll that he's obviously he's put forward. Now Arlene Foster, I believe, came on today on Radio Ulster and called it fantasy politics, I suppose, putting forth this idea of the referendum, but yet the unionists are now saying they may call Sinn Féin's bluff and actually back the poll. I mean, what in terms of yourself working in the sort of the student side, the youth side, what's the feeling around the border poll? What are your feelings of the party? My feeling about the border poll, I'm very excited about the border poll. I think that, and I welcome those comments that, yeah, support the border poll. You know, it's not for politicians to decide whether or not the border poll will, you know, go ahead. It's for the people. Listen to the people. Give the people a chance to say, would you like to see the 6 counties rejoin the 26 counties? Ask the people. Are the unionists really that afraid that a yes vote will come true?
You know, are they really that afraid? They need to listen to the people. That they were elected by the people. Listen to the people.
Do you think that there should be a poll in the 26 counties about whether or not the 6 counties should be allowed to rejoin the 26 counties, since you're talking about the people? And let's say that the people in the south refuse to join.
Yeah. I think we need a discussion, and if there is a lot of criticism about it or worries about it, then maybe. But what's currently being pushed is a poll in the 6 counties.
I suppose what would interest me about this would be Sinn Féin's position, for instance, if the referendum did go ahead and the Unionists did claim a victory in it. In terms of Sinn Féin's position after that point, would they, take a stand? I know they've gone on record and said that they would accept the decision, that they would work with the decision and move forward. But would it be a case of, every 5 years, every 10 years, every 20 years, they'd constantly keep rolling it out type thing, instead of respecting that decision and moving for something different rather than a referendum?
I don't think we should go too much into hypotheticals at the moment. I think we just have to deal with the current situation, and I think, if it goes ahead, then we'll see what the outcome is, and whatever happens, a yes vote or a no vote, it's back to the drawing board, and we move ahead with the decision of the people, and we respect that decision, and we'll work with it.
An excellent political answer there.
Yeah, absolutely. More generally, do you have any thoughts about a united Ireland? I presume obviously that would be one of your main platform manifestos.
Absolutely.
But what do you think are some of the main benefits of a 32-county Ireland, dare I imagine it?
Okay, there are numerous benefits. There's duplications of services in the north and the south. There's a lot of duplication. There's, say, like for health services, you have to go across the border to get certain things done, certain operations or whatever. But if there was a 32 counties socialist republic, which is what we're aiming for, I really do think that would benefit all of the people of the 32 counties.
Would the north still be expecting 10.5 billion sterling, 10.5 billion pounds in subsidies from London?
Well, I don't think they would, but the thing about the north is that they won't release how much the 6 counties make and contribute towards the UK's economy. I think that needs to be looked at. We don't know that, and why won't the British government release that?
Yeah, another very astute political answer. Do you have anything else to add there?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think you're absolutely right that you need to be real with politics here. You need to ground it in what is happening now. I don't think you're right. I don't think that we can hypothetically say one way or another. I do think, though, that even if a united Ireland was brought about through referendum and like, there are going to still be such a large element remaining in the north that would be against it, and I don't think it would potentially be, let's say, the easiest transition.
I don't doubt that we have to work on that. Sinn Féin has reached out to the loyalist community numerous times. We still are. It's a constant thing that we're doing. We're reaching out. We're showing the Unionists as well as Republicans the benefits of 32 counties.
I suppose then that would really go back, that if the main aim is to reach out to the Unionist parties, the main aim is to create this united Ireland, wouldn't helping to reach out to the Unionist parties, wouldn't it be better if, for instance, the leadership of Sinn Féin was different, that there wasn't that connection to the past, that there wasn't that connection with, as you said, the 70s, etc. beforehand, that there was that clean break, and that they're dealing with someone where there isn't, let's say, baggage?
I don't think so. The relationship between Unionist leaders and Republican leaders has improved so much over the last decade or so. You see power sharing in the 6 counties is taking place. You see Republicans reaching out to the Unionist community, for example, Martin McGuinness shaking the Queen's hand. That's a sign that we are willing to really accommodate the Unionists. It's not about just pushing them aside. We want to include the Unionists in this united Ireland.
You'd have to, essentially.
Yeah, it's for all our citizens, not just Republicans or nationalist-minded people.
Okay, very good. I'd like to thank Stephen and Chris for joining me on tonight's conversation. Next week we'll be continuing Young People in Politics segment, and tomorrow your call is on again. Thank you very much for watching.